This year, throughout the entire year, the North Node is moving through the sign of Aries, which is a very entrepreneurial sign and is a sign around being independent, being courageous, and sometimes being a little bit aggressive in pursuit of the things that you want and desire to create. Hey guys, this is Courtney from Willow's Bloom. Happy 2024. I am super excited to see you guys here today for the Capricorn New Moon that's happening on January 11th. So it's our first new moon of the year, and I want to say we're coming in strong. I don't think that we're necessarily coming in as strong as we could be, but it looks like a relatively good new moon with some challenging aspects kind of sprinkled into it, and we're going to get into all that. So let's go ahead and start off with talking about where this moon is placed. It is at 20 degrees and 44 seconds of Capricorn. As I mentioned, it is a new moon, so that's the sun and the moon together in the sign of Capricorn hanging out. New moons are about opportunities that have yet to come to completion. They are things that we are mulling over. They are ideas or inklings or intuitive feelings. And we are much more tapped into our internal world during these periods of time. So I feel like this is an interesting one because Capricorn isn't necessarily known as being intuitive per se, but I am getting the feeling that we're kind of being given a little bit of a download or a plan for the rest of our year during this period of time, or at least for the rest of these next few months, because Capricorn has to do with longevity. It has to do with having a structure, a plan, an idea, a goal, and a specific mindset that's going to help you advance your life. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and during this new moon, it is really well placed. So I'm excited about that, and that's kind of where I feel like the most highly redeeming qualities are coming out for us. But I'm going to get to that in a second because this new moon is making some weird aspects to the nodes. And when I say weird, I mean it's making an exact square to the North and South node. These focal points, the North and South node, are evolutionary pieces of information or kind of spurs in a direction for society and for us as individuals. So when the North node is in a sign, it's trying to rev up the energy in that sign and have us cultivate more of it. So the North node at this time is in the sign of Aries, and it's trying to help us cultivate a sense of independence, a sense of boldness, confidence, courageousness, and taking risks and leaps in our life, following our instinct without necessarily having to have all of our ducks in a row or be a total master at something. Aries is really good at learning through trial and error, being a beginner and throwing themselves into the fire and kind of having those more intense experiences that allow them to grasp what they're meant to grasp. And that doesn't mean, I mean, this kind of depends on your whole chart. I'm not saying that Aries are, starting things before they're ready always, but there is something here where they're willing to take a risk and they're willing to sometimes be impulsive or not overthink things. Whereas this Capricorn energy is a lot more calculated. So I feel like it's coming in here to support the Aries energy. And it's saying, okay, we don't need to maybe know every single thing ever. We don't even need to have a plan for the next few years. But can we have something solid and tangible to lean in towards so that our instinct has a little bit of a structure, so that when we are kind of diving in headfirst to something, we're not diving in blindly. We're diving in headfirst, but we've at least surveyed the area a little bit and kind of know more or less what we might be getting into, even if there are always going to be a feeling of maybe not having all of the information or not being totally ready. I think this year is about overcoming those feelings and doing it anyway. But this Capricorn is going to provide enough safety, enough planning, enough structure for the instinct to really take root and for it to make sense in this year ahead. And so wherever you have Capricorn in your chart, which we're going to go over all the signs, and I'll link those videos down below, wherever you have Capricorn in your chart is going to indicate where it could be helpful to kind of sit with yourself a little bit more and try to bring out clarity and some concreteness into your life. Because this new moon is squaring the nodes, again, I think it's kind of representing how there's a little bit of a contradicting energy between Capricorn and Aries. A square involves some element of conflict or tension because there's inherent disagreement in the way that these signs go about things. As I mentioned, Aries, where the North Node is, wants us to dive in head first, while Capricorn wants a plan. So there's going to probably be this edge that we're going to be maneuvering during this period of time where maybe we're leaning more in one direction or the other, and we need to kind of embody both in their sort of oxymoron or contradictory energies. So that's how I'm seeing this have some awkwardness to it, is that I feel like there's a kind of change of fate during this period of time. It's challenging us in terms of our evolution as a soul and our progress in our life. These major milestones, those are what the nodes have to deal with. And it's creating a challenge there where it's like we can't just keep going along as we are. We have to make these minor adjustments along the way. And this is one of those periods of time where we need to make a minor adjustment of having a plan, thinking maybe more conservatively, thinking long term. And I just saw 555. So there might be something around really massive change that's going to be happening this year for us, especially in April when we have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which I'll talk about later at a different date. But we're going to have a lot of big change this year, and I think a lot of forward movement. Aries is definitely about taking action and not waiting, not delaying. And so I really feel like this Capricorn new moon is trying to have us have at least a somewhat of a foundation, at least somewhat of a structure or security or stability in order for us to move that quickly. One of the things that's also noteworthy is that Chiron is on the North Node in Aries. So there could be some healing that we have to do around our sense of self and our self-worth and our confidence and our belief in our abilities. And so some of those things could be challenged when we're trying to make a plan about how to move forward. We might have to kind of process some of those internal voices that says, oh, what if I can't do this? Or maybe I should delay, or I don't know enough yet, or whatever that is. And I think that that's something that we're all meant to grow through, and it's not actually meant to hold us back in any real way. This new moon is also making a beautiful trine to Uranus, so it is receiving a lot of support for these changes to happen in our life. Sometimes Uranus can bring the unexpected quality of some event or emotion or something happening a little bit suddenly. So there might be a character trait to this new moon where there is, again, something a little bit out of the blue or quick. And ultimately, I see this as liberating us if we are, not sure about how to make these changes. And we're not sure if we're going to, kind of get stuck in a pattern. Uranus can kind of come in here and say, no, this is the way forward. This is how I need you to feel. This is the energy that we're moving towards, which is more freedom, more expansion, more liberation. And that's also helping us align with what feels most authentic to us as well. As I mentioned, Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, this in charge of this moon, and it is making a beautiful sextile to both Mars and Jupiter. So I really like this because Jupiter is going to give Saturn essentially the wisdom and the positivity to feel like life is at its fingertips. Saturn is out here like the construction worker ready to create a building, to bring something concrete to life, which is what this plan is for. And Jupiter is the visionary. It's the entrepreneur. It's the person that is in charge in a more imaginative way, where it's trying to come in and say, look at what we could do. And let's think outside of the box. Let's think bigger. Let's believe in ourselves and not just make a plan that is super conservative, which is very Saturn, but let's push ourselves to the limit and grow as a person by reaching for something a little bit outside of our comfort zone. And with Saturn also sextiling Mars and Jupiter and Mars in this perfect trine, this exact trine, we're gaining a lot of confidence. We're gaining a lot of sense of boundaries and willpower and adventurousness and bravery to actually commit to some of those things. So it's not just about thinking about it and dreaming about it. It's about taking that action. And Mars is coming in here to really support that, especially because Mars is in Capricorn. So it's very focused. It's very defined. It knows what it wants. It knows where it's going. And you can't really stop a Mars in Capricorn. So that is really here on our side, especially with that trine to Jupiter, to offer up more of a sense of belief in ourselves and of our own ability to create effectual change in our life. And I'm really excited to see how that manifests for us, not even just on a physical level, but also on a spiritual and emotional level, because Jupiter is quite spiritual. So I think it's going to do something to alter our character in a way that can build us up to believe in ourselves more as we start to push those limits and we see it succeeding and we start to see how we can affect change. We believe that we can do more and more, and we start to see ourselves differently and have this really almost like this spiritual awakening of our character and of what we're capable of, which is I think is what the North Node in Aries is wanting us to do. It's wanting us to see what we're capable of and be unrelenting in that process, not give up, sustain ourselves through this process. And that's what Saturn sextile Mars does. It helps us sustain the workload, sustain the effort through both energy and discipline and motivation and excitement, as well as kind of logic and structure and habit. And it's combining these to have us follow through in this really solid way, which I love to see. We also have Venus and Sagittarius making an exact trine to Chiron, and that would also trine the North Node. So there's something here where I feel like there can be a little bit of like a healing energy, especially when it comes to our expansiveness, when it comes to what we're wanting in terms of creative ideas or relationships, which is all very Venus experience. It could be healing as well in terms of your own sense of worth, your own financial matters, your physical appearance, and how you view yourself. So it's basically trying to help us open up to our potential in a way that we relate to ourselves and others. And if there has been things that we've kind of settled for in the past, this Venus trine Chiron energy might bring some of that up so we can realize that we can heal that. We can let that go so that we can actually pursue something that feels like it's elevating us, which I think is the whole purpose of this year, but especially this new moon, where we're creating a plan that is meant to elevate us, but also sustain us. We're still experiencing a little bit of confusion because Mercury is still in Sagittarius, and it is also going to be making a square to Neptune. It's been making a square to Neptune. It's not something new. It's actually separating from that. And whenever Mercury squares Neptune, we can access a lot of intuition and divine wisdom, but we're not always like having our logical mind super strong. So in terms of signing contracts and making very big life decisions, I think it's better to still hold off just at least a few more days after this new moon. But ultimately, I think that this energy is kind of passing, and it's just more of a little remnants of, maybe I'm not totally, certain about everything that I'm thinking right now. And that's okay. That's okay. There might be areas of your life where you don't have that certainty. And that's not really the purpose. It's with the North Node in Aries, the purpose is not to have total certainty. It's about to feel conviction around your purpose, around your desires and passions, and follow that, even if there is logical and practical uncertainties. And that's why this Capricorn New Moon is squaring the Aries North Node, because Capricorn wants the logic and it wants the plan. So I already talked about that, but I'm just going to finish off with the cards that I pulled for today. So one of the cards I want to start off with is the humor card in reverse. And this is talking about us really taking life too seriously. And I think that this can be something that's pretty common with Capricorns. I'm a Capricorn moon, and I definitely have been guilty and probably am really consistently guilty of taking things too seriously sometimes. Saturn, Capricorn energy, it is about responsibility. It's about duty. It's about things that we have to accomplish in a day before we can rest, before we can play. And I feel like Venus and Sagittarius trining Chiron, and also Saturn making this beautiful sextile to Jupiter and Mars, is trying to bring some structure and play together. So it's not trying to lean too heavily into this Capricorn. I'm really not getting the sense. I feel like it's a plan. I feel like it's dedication, but it's coming through inspiration, through excitement, through passion, through vision and motivation. It's not from a place of dogma or strictness or overly disciplined mentalities. And so I think if we fall into that, I don't think we're going to fall into that, to be totally frank, with the astrology going on. But if you have that in your nature and you're seeing that at this period of time, this is your opportunity to step outside of that and create that sense of flow with structure. And I see that with this creative card, creativity or creative spark. I definitely feel like we are extremely creatively inspired right now, and life is feeling a little bit more alive, and it's our opportunity to align with that energy, move into that energy purposefully, intentionally, and cultivate more of that, as well as a vision for your creativity. Instead of just flowing with what feels good, how can we create that structure and that vision and something to work towards, while also that flow and that playfulness and that creative essence? So that is always going to be a little bit of a challenge, especially with Saturn and Pisces. That's kind of the whole name of the game this year with Saturn and Pisces anyway. But ultimately, I think if we can master this, then everything is going to flow so much easier in the future. So that is what I see for the overview. I am going to cover all the signs, which I'll link down below. I did want to let you guys know I am seeking out just a handful more of healer interviews. So if you're interested in that, if you are a healer who wants to use astrology in your practice with your clients to better help them understand their core issues, either psychologically or physically, then I would like to interview you in exchange for a computer generated but personalized 2024 forecast. So you can find that, or you can reach me at contact@willowsbloom.com and put healer interview in the subject. And if you want a 2024 personalized forecast, I have a Notion template or a one-on-one reading with me. So the Notion template is not personalized, but it is a forecast of all of the transits every day and their energies. And then the reading with me, we're going to go through month by month and look at everything you should know, plan ahead, answer all your questions so that you can best take advantage of this adventurous and entrepreneurial year. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, share with your friends, and have a beautiful 2024. Bye.